Hello, 200. Hope all is going well. Dr. Allen, we're getting close to the end now. A few things before we start this week. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the syllabus. And another thing, it was great seeing a couple of people related to the service learning opportunity I talked to that went on Wednesday. I'm talking about it like it was this week, which it was for me, but when I'm recording this, but it was actually related to a Model UN type thing. Great that a few of you are going to do that. Please don't forget that your service learning activities are due at the end of the semester. You have to have 10 hours. Again, it's not a dream scenario how we've done it this semester. I wish, COVID's kind of messed that up a little bit, but make sure you have either best practice videos completed, some sort of tutoring, which I know some of you are doing, coaching, all that. I know I say it every week, but just a reminder. Also, let me go ahead and pull up the syllabus here. And it should pull up just to kind of look ahead a little bit and kind of get on the same page with everyone. We are all the way down here. It's getting close. It's crazy. Today we're going to talk about 21st century skills. I got a few things with that, and I want to explain the Dewey discussion board because there's some integration there, but I'll get to that when we get there. Video discussion is up for the Flipgrid. That is related to 21st century skills also. I know most of you have been really good. We've had so many varieties of editions on the Taking Sides books. I try to make sure there's 2 or 3 up. There's 2 up for what I'm referring to as this week, but last week. And I try to catch them. But if you don't see something, just email me. We'll make it work. But again, Flipgrid. By the way, a reason I'm babbling about that, Flipgrid 10 is technically the last one you have to do if you've done them all. If you want to do the one next week for Flipgrid 11, that is fine. I put that on there as optional in case someone missed one, or if someone wants a few extra credit points, you can do it. But really, 10 is the last one you need to do if you've done them all and your standing is pretty good in the class. But if you want a little bit of a safety net, you're welcome to do 11 next week. I'm going to talk about the Dewey discussion board after I finish talking about the materials with 21st century skills this week. It's a pretty straightforward concept, but that'll be the 2 assignments. But looking ahead, don't forget you have your Gardner multiple intelligence assignment that's going to be due next week. A few of you have been nice and actually have contacted me to take a look at your Gardner stuff that you've done. It's been spot on, remember. Let's go ahead and just take a peek at that assignment again, just so we don't forget. Hopefully I put it under assignments, which would be brilliant. And of course, I think it's under there. Please say it's under there. Yep. You're going to select one of Gardner's multiple intelligences, which we talked about a few weeks ago. And you just basically need to create like a PowerPoint or a video. You can narrate it, just talking about it and explain individuals that you believe fit that level or that category of intelligence. Provide a sample idea or lesson that you would like to do with that intelligence in the classroom. It doesn't have to be detailed, just kind of an idea. Have some sort of visual presentation. It can be PowerPoint, Nearpod, whatever. And once you submit them, I'm going to actually post them up on our discussion board for when we come back after break. We still technically have a little bit of time afterwards, but it doesn't affect us too much because we're not meeting live. We're just not allowed on campus anymore and such after Thanksgiving. That includes me, by the way. So anyway, don't forget your Gardner. If you have any questions, please check in or I can take a look at it. But just keep that in your mind. And also, I'm just going to go ahead and mention it since I worry about it. Don't forget your service learning. It's a requirement of some sort. Again, it's a goofy semester, but you do need 10 hours of tutoring. As you can see, the original dream is Boys and Girls Club and Job Corps. I've said that a million times. That didn't quite work out because they weren't open, and Boys and Girls Club never got back with me. I emailed them 4 times. But anyway, you just need to, whatever you do, you need to write a final reflective essay. On here it says presented as a group or to the class. We're not going to get into that. That was if we met live, and it would have been nice, but it just didn't happen. But I do want you to kind of adapt it to the best you can, just the reflective, any skills you picked up or such. There is if you go under resources, there is a little Q&A, and I might even send something out just to kind of help you out. Also, don't forget to log your hours. I do need a timesheet of some sort. There is one posted under resources that will give you just documents that you've done what you needed to do for this class. If you put it on Sakai, that'll be great. It keeps documentation and everything. Um, some of them, like the videos, the Model UN, I can approve. But if it's other things that are outside, just make sure you have someone initial it just as a cover yourself type thing. So that is kind of nuts and bolts stuff for this week, week 12. Unbelievable. Week 12. We're going to look at 21st century skills. This is not a revolutionary type concept, but it's something you'll hear still bandied about. I use it a lot in our ed tech class. It's actually, I think the class actually has 21st century skills actually in the title. But as you can see, we're going to talk about 21st century skills, Dewey 7 and 8. Hopefully, it wasn't required, but I did send out an article that I know the week that I kind of gave to kind of let everyone get caught up. I had a little bit on Rousseau. If you were interested in Rousseau, there was a little bit of, it was just an article I stumbled upon that was related to how Dewey was heavily influenced by Rousseau. I had never seen that article. It was just kind of one of these weird things that popped up. So I did share that. It wasn't required reading or anything, but if you're interested in that, check it out. Dewey 7 and 8 discussion boards have been great so far. Just make sure the one thing, because I think dinged a few just slightly, because you need to have a little bit of depth. Just show that you've read the chapter. A few people, I think they'll just put like a sentence or two, and you can beef those up if I say anything. That's fine, but I just put some sort of quote or some sort of example that Dewey gets in. I'd say 99% of you have been doing that. Awesome. But just make sure you have a little bit of depth and a little bit of thought in your responses. A sentence or two is not quite reflected on that. Most of you have been really hitting Dewey's ideas. He does write like an academic. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that gets the most riveting read ever done, but the concepts are there, and that's what you kind of need to dig for. So Dewey's a big thing in education. It's just one of those things that I think you definitely, if you're going to take anything out of this class, just take the name out, John Dewey. With all that being said, this week, what we're going to talk about are 21st century skills. I'm going to just kind of highlight a few here in a minute. I actually just went ahead and just, instead of creating a PowerPoint and telling you what they are, they're pretty self-explanatory. I did just post them up on Sakai. There is a folder here, though, on 21st century skills that I have posted some materials. If you're interested in looking at them, that is awesome. I'm going to tell you this right now. There are so many lists on 21st century skills. If you type in 21st century skills, you will get a bazillion different things, a bazillion different lists. For different fields, if you type in or Google 21st century skills education, you're still going to get a lot of different lists. I've tried to narrow those down, but by and large, they also are cross-listed a lot. They're one and the same. And let me just say this, 21st century skills are they're nothing revolutionary. They're things you should be doing in the classroom anyway. But what happened is at the turn of the century, in around 2000, 2001, all these different things were like, we've got to get our students ready for the new millennium. Things are going to be different in the new millennium, which in some regards they are. I mean, this is a great example of what's going on right now with COVID. The technology, you got to be I guess they call it tech lit. You got to have some background or some familiarity with technology. That's very true. And you got to remember, in 2000, the internet, it was around, and it was booming, but it wasn't, even in 2000, I don't think, I lived in it, it wasn't quite the staple of our life that it is today. I mean, this is pre-YouTube, pre-really social media, things like that, pre-MySpace. I don't know if anyone knows that term. It's an old one. That's a pre-Facebook type thing. As you can see here, though, I actually kind of went with this one. This was an educational site. They kind of divide education or 21st century skills into different things. Learning skills, literacy skills, and life skills. You know what? I'm probably just going to keep this chart up because I have these listed on the Sakai site, but this kind of hits the same thing. So you can see learning skills, critical thinking. Y'all do that. I mean, that's something you should do. And no matter what subject you are teaching. I taught social studies. That was a big thing. That's your ultimate goal. We talked about blooms last week. Critical thinking that's that higher level of thinking that you want to get your students. Creativity, it's a big one. Another Bloom's thing. Make sure that you get students being creative in what you do. And again, this goes across the board. This is whether you're teaching English, social studies, physical education, art. You want your students to do this. Critical thinking about related to health related topics and what they can do to exercise and students and maintaining good health. How what are the pluses and minuses of that? Again, well, there's no minuses to good health, is there? I guess you can enjoy and just sit on the couch, but anyway, I kid. Anyway, creativity. You can get creative in the classroom. Students can. You can do that on anything. I'm just thinking art. Art, obviously, you're going to incorporate creativity, but also in your lesson plans, you need to have the opportunity for students to maybe be creative and make their own things and explain things. Collaboration, always a big one that goes across the board. Group work, working together, figuring out problems together, creating things together. Maybe you have a critical thinking assignment where students are going to create something. They're going to work together, and then they're going to communicate it. Communication is another one. And I should highlight, communication is not only, back and forth. What I'm doing right now will be communication, or it could be written communication. That's something that I think is a little bit of a lost art, and you want to make sure that your students are doing it. And what I mean by lost art, I mean not, I'm holding up my phone, and texting, but, writing in detail, writing for meeting. I know we have a few English focused area people in this class, and that's something that you want to look at. I really should have just said some English secondary majors. I got a little wordy there. Literacy skills, information, media, technology, that's all important stuff. Of course, these things are, I think they're self-explanatory, but how you gather information, how you determine if it's a quality source. I think maybe you were guilty of this. I'm guilty of it sometimes, but having students understand these three together and what is a good source and what it isn't, and what a primary source is and what a secondary source is, it's really, really important. I was teaching during the Wikipedia boom, and I've come full circle on Wikipedia. I'll be the first to admit, when I first started teaching when I first started using Wikipedia or doing research projects on computers in my classroom, I'd say in the early 2000s, the site that a lot of students would automatically go to was Wikipedia. And I was one of those teachers right off the bat that would go, no, it's not true. People change it, all that stuff. Well, I kind of softened on it because I think it's a good gateway to kind of introduce people into maybe what a basic concept is. And I started to feel a little bit like a hypocrite because when I would look something up, where would I go? I'd go to Wikipedia. I think what's important is that students recognize that Wikipedia potentially could have issues, and also that they need to branch out and verify the information that is on Wikipedia. And that's kind of what I always think with information. For better or for worse, I kind of think slightly for the worse. Books aren't quite the same and libraries aren't the same. Most schools now have library/media centers, and that's because they have all this stuff and the technology. And I have heard some of my student teachers make reference to this because they've been out doing teaching. And I have a feeling some of you may see this or even understand what I'm talking about. But also, don't overestimate modern students' ability to use technology. I think a lot of people think this generation just rocks technology. They rock Xbox, they rock PlayStation, they rock the phones, they rock some social media sites. But as far as like applying and using technology, whenever I taught, I always gave myself a little leeway for instructions on how to use a certain type of technology, even if it was PowerPoint or slides. I will admit most students are pretty good with that now after the pandemic. But if you're using Google and you need to have students do something like that, just make sure everyone's on the same page. Don't overestimate that everyone knows how to use things. Also, don't overestimate that every student has the internet and things like that. You might have to, show someone how to use something. So especially if you're teaching the lower grades, this could be, very tricky. If you're teaching first, second grade, they might be all right and know what an iPad is and that they have to tap. but they might not know how to build things and such. So again, literacy skills, information, media, technology. So then we have life skills. These are some more 21st century skills: flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, social skills. These are all things you want to kind of build upon as a student. I'm sorry, as well, you want to do it as a student and you want your students to do it. These are the 21st century skills, at least the 12 that we're kind of going to focus on. Uh, I will say this also, these apply to your students. You want your students to take these things out of your classroom if at all possible. But also, and this is one of the cool things, I guess, about 21st century skills, these are things that you also want to think about as far as planning in your lesson plans and how you approach classroom. Think about it. I kind of talked about everything related from a student point of view, but you want to encourage critical thinking. You want to think and take your lessons to a higher level. You want to be creative in your lesson planning. You want to work with your colleagues and your students. You want to communicate to your students in a clear fashion. You want to also maybe do it in unique ways, maybe a flipped classroom, which we're doing now, maybe like some sort of virtual learning. Information, you got to make sure that you check sources that you're doing for planning, especially if you're teaching maybe some sort of lesson where there's debatable information, or you want to check and verify sources where you do your research on a topic that it's in multiple places. Again, I default to social studies because it's what I taught, but if I'm teaching World War I, a lot of times I would look at multiple sites just to make sure what I was getting ready to say was correct, because even though I had a World War I class way back in the 90s, and I think I know the content pretty well, I still like to, I have to reteach myself and refocus on some things just to make sure I know what I'm talking about. And of course, you want to stay up to date with technology and incorporate it in your classrooms too. So those are things, it works both ways. These are both student and teacher skills. And of course, I think these are all skills. And actually, just going to cut to the chase. I think I said this in a prior lesson. If I was going to take one thing, one skill personally that I think will really help you in teaching and in life, and even if you don't go into education, you decide it's not for you, I just think flexibility is so key. It will help with your stress. It will help with working with collaboration and communication as far as approaching people. It just helps a lot. To me, two staples of education: flexibility and organization. If you can do those two things, I think you'll find, I'm not going to kid you, there'll be stressful moments, but I just think it just helps. It will alleviate and help with a lot of things, and then you can build from there. And also, I think flexibility gives you a lot of opportunities, because sometimes if you're willing to try new things, it opens a lot of new doors. And of course, these others are pretty standard, but you need to take some initiative. Don't just do enough to get it done, maybe go that extra mile. Be productive. I will say this, teaching's another thing, and I think you're probably fully aware of this, but teaching isn't a 9 to 5 job. You'll be grading things late at night. You'll be working on the weekends. Summers are off. I'm not going to kid you. It's nice not to have to go in the summer, but I worked every summer. A lot of times I would go into my school buildings and do stuff. I would rearrange my room, decorate my room, do planning, do professional developments. You've got to make, teaching is a lifestyle as much as it is a job. So make sure you do that. And of course, social skills. I'm not telling you have to be, I'll just use my mom uses this term all the time, a chatty Cathy kind of thing. She has a friend named Kathy. But, you just, make sure that you're willing to work and talk to other people if you have issues and such. So that's from the teacher point of view, but you also want your students to get that. So hopefully what you're picking up is these are self-explanatory, but you need to apply them in the classroom, both for your students and for yourself. This article is up, by the way, and actually they're all listed right here. The first 4 of them are actually called the 4 C's. A lot of people think they're the most important: collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. So if you want to think about them that way. Also, the Hanover Research Organization had some flexibility is obviously repeated, but they thought these were second-tier ones, and I thought some of them were kind of interesting. The global awareness and cultural awareness one is coming up a lot. Not even this, with all the events that have been going on this year, but also just in general. And I, as a social studies teacher, always thought these were important ones and should just naturally be in there. So, make sure you're aware that, think outside of just our own little Eastern Panhandle location. And again, leadership, I think, was up there, but that was some that they identified. And actually, I put this on here to show you. There's lists everywhere. Um, some other ones that I kind of ID just looking around. Citizenship. There's different ideas of that one, but being a good civic leader, doing things within the community, charitable type work. I liked this one. I mentioned it when I was just babbling along there, but this goes along the communications one. Oral and written communications are both important skills. Um, I personally think if, writing skills and the ability to communicate, but especially writing is so important. It might be number one in all of school because you use it in every field. Uh, you use it in English, social studies, science, math, physical education, art. You have to be able to write in some capacity. You might not do it as much in some classes, but you just need to do it. At some point, right? You have to answer questions and things. And also, no matter what field you enter, you're going to need writing skills, whether you're teaching, whether you're working on, you're a mechanic and you have to write up bills and respond to emails, all those things. It's just writing is an important skill. It's a 21st century skill, but I think hopefully you're picking up these aren't ideas that just popped up in the year 2000. And again, social responsibility and ethics, I think that's a good one. Sometimes we lose that with the technology aspect, which I think is up here somewhere. Oh, technology. Sometimes we'll say things to people online that we would never say face to face. So that's 21st century skills. Again, I think you know what they all mean. Just think about them both in terms of your students. Think about them in terms of when you're in the classroom for yourself. Before I go, I do want to show you something on the Dewey discussion board. I kind of went a little different this week. I know Dewey. Make sure you do your readings. Do your Dewey readings. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to think just quite simply, what do you think Dewey would think of the concept of 21st century skills? There's no right or wrong answer. Just kind of give me something. I would like a paragraph, just to kind of answer what those are. And then I told you last week that there would be something with Bloom's. This is it. It's nothing complex, but take a look at your Bloom's taxonomy. There is a chart from last week. You can just go back and pull it up, or you can just Google Bloom's taxonomy. It's everywhere. I want you to write 3 objectives. I know you probably haven't done much lesson planning or anything like that yet, and that's fine. That's coming in some of your later education classes. This is just a foundations type class. But what I want you to do is I want you to write 3 objectives using Bloom's taxonomy in your field area. And you probably are familiar with the concept of these objectives, but I just want you to do something like I'm social studies. So I would do the students will be able to, you'll hear that a lot. That's your SW, I don't have my 2 there. TB, BT. Students will be able to, oh my gosh, I'm babbling this one. Reset. Sorry, I'm not refilming. SWBAT. Student will be able to, then your verb. And that's what we were kind of getting into with Bloom's. Student will be able to analyze a map by utilizing the map tools on the National Geographic Use website. That's just one I kind of did off the top of my head. I could probably refine that a little bit, but I think you get the general point. Student will be able to analyze a great work of art by looking at Picasso's Guernica. Or students will be able to demonstrate how to shoot a foul shot by shooting 10 shots at a regulation distance. Something like that. So I want 3. Please use 3 different verbs. I might want to put that one there, but I think you'll do that. Objectives are important. It's something you're going to hear a little more down the line when you do your lesson plannings. Once you all get in your methods planning classes, you're definitely going to get into some verbiage, but I think it's important to kind of know, objectives are key, and Bloom's is a great foundation to kind of have those verbs. That analyzes a Bloom. Just to kind of rehash, look, I'm going to do this right now. Sorry, we'll just go there. Bloom's taxonomy, and there you go, verbs. And there's tons of them. You can just look at them till the day is long. This is always a nice one. I see this one all the time. But as you can see, boom, analyzing, acting out. These are all good ones. So you can do, of course, if you can aim for something on this, I'd say green up to red. That's fantastic. By the way, there's that creating 21st century skills. Analyzing, I already had, but I could even do students will, um, you know, summarize the causes of World War One by looking at the acronym MAIN or something like that. So that's all there. That's basically it for the week. This will be posted. We're getting close. Really, we only have 1 week after this um, for Thanksgiving. So I think we're going to make the semester, which is fantastic. I hope everyone has a great day. If you have any problems, as always, feel free to contact me. Most of you have been really good about that. I think I've talked to everyone individually, most of you individually at some point this semester, which is good. I'm glad. It's, again, I'm not going to get into the goofiness. I can babble all the time. So that being said, hope you have a great week. I'm recording this on a Thursday, and it looks like it's beautiful outside. So hopefully you had a good weekend and you were able to enjoy the nice weather, because I think it's supposed to continue the whole week. So talk to you later.